Hi, my name is Sam. It's May 11th, 3:52 p.m. I'm seeking online administrative help. This video is an attempt to show the process. First, we do a process we call seek, and you identify what you're looking for in the group so that others can know. I'm actually at home office right now, home. So I look up home and I find the latest event so I can reuse the latest of the same type. So I have my finding, and I put the name with the groups. They could see the steps that I'm doing. If a person knows what they're doing, they should share the steps. If they don't know, they should also share the steps so we can rectify the issues. Every event is supposed to have its name in 4 places: in the main, the mapping, the beginning, and the end of the memo. It's supposed to have an indication that the person stands virtually, and then we collaborate on the date of the event. In this case, it's May 3rd. I'm going to duplicate this and utilize this as my now event, but I'm going to alter the specifications of who and when so that I can use it as my now event. In this situation, I've got 2 of these events now of the same name, and I have to alter one of them. So if I go back and I search for it by the name of the event, we should see 2 of them show up. And this one we're going to edit. I'm going to alter the date to reflect my present standing, present time, and update the data. If the data is not updated, the entry ends up becoming worse than having nothing. So people who do sloppy or half-assed work are actually worse than a person that doesn't show up or work. At least with the person that doesn't do anything, it doesn't have a cost and it doesn't have a negative effect. The people who do half-assed sloppy work, they shit on everything and they equate just time and appearance as though it has a value, when in fact it's actually a negative. In this case, I've altered the date, I'm going to alter the role, and I'm going to alter the calendar it goes to. These other details, I'm going to leave this so we could fix it because it doesn't even match the event that I'm working with. So in this case, I save it. I update the group. And I'm showing these steps, which are very basic, but as of yet, not a single person that I've hired, and some of these people have been here a very long time, are capable of doing this process. They'll make appearance, they'll post things, but they have no attention to the detail. We have the name, we have the path. So I've got number 1 was seek, and I was looking for something that just ties into the fact that I'm present on the computer and I'm operating from the home office, and anybody who could assist would be able to do the administrative effort and have more than enough work for 4 or 5 people if they were to do thorough, complete work. I haven't met one person who knows their ass from a hole in the ground. The work they do is for appearance. There's no care or attention to detail, and it becomes obvious very quickly they're just here to get money, which is fine if you do good work. If you do shit work, then you find that those type of people are always looking for work, and they're not really welcome any place that cares about the detail. So trash work, trash people. In this case, I've got my event now. I shared it by name and by path. It exists on the calendar. And at this point, I would want to orient it to the current day's Google document where we journalize the efforts and events of the day. Now, this is a prior one, so I could take the path from this to the group, and then this group is actually a prior period. So I move to the present period by going laterally. Prior or next is the orientation. And then I should be able to find today's document, which it exists today, but there's nothing for next week. So I can see that nobody has worked past their nose. They only know what's in front of their nose. They don't extend themselves to exceed whatever their nose tip is. If they exceeded it, they would, at every step, look at where they stand, establish that they can navigate in an orientation process to what's prior and what's next. This is the first step of recognizing if a person has ability to care for the work and the detail. In this case, this person from Philippines has failed to relate and link this document to the prior and the next. The prior is linked to the 6th, whereas it should be linked to the 12th. So I'll make an event on the calendar to indicate this is an exception. And this person's been told a few times, so I'm not sure if they're capable. They may not have the capacity or the capability to do the job. So I posted another event looking for anybody who's capable or willing to become capable. And without fail, every person who replies is coming from an area that recognizes only the surface. Person who knows more than just the surface will look beneath the surface. And beneath the surface is recognition that you need to look at the detail, and you don't decide what's important or not important until you know where you stand. So we're standing present. I have the name, mapping, and the memo. And then this should have exception, where I note the exception. My fingers are a little too sloppy here, but that's fine. So here's exception. It should link to exception, where we would have the name, the word, and the type as paths, and it doesn't have that. So even here we've got the name, but we have no recognition of the 4 aspects. Everything has more than one aspect. With our process, we identify the focus, and the focus exists normally as a symbol, a word, a name, and a type. It's the same focal point, but it has 4 aspects. In this case, I'm posting an exception, and I'd like to establish what the specification of that is. And I'm going to call this failure to orient. So if they had oriented at the level of the date, I would be able to navigate to the prior and the next. But they don't do that. So here I've got my name, my mapping. I'm in the proper time zone. I've got the beginning and the end. I say this because even though I say it and share it, the people won't do it. And then you point it out, and until you fire them and get another person, the person doesn't develop the capacity to look and be careful. So in this case, I have the exception, I have the path to the exception, and it does indicate here that the exception does exist as a word. And let's see if it exists as a type. It does, but it wasn't transferred. So one of the first steps is to transfer ownership of the file so that I can open it without my focal orientation as a role changing. So in this case, I share the file, I transfer the ownership, and then I save it. All of these things are basic administrative capabilities that distract me from my role as a technician. So here I'm explaining it, trying to teach people, and then they won't do it. And even when you express that, you'll find that they will say yes, 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 but they don't check at every step of the way. So what happens is you have a repetition of the same issues arising over and over. And it really is a very simplistic issue where people just won't do the job. They still want to be paid. They still will take the time and effort, and they'll take the opportunity from perhaps there's somebody out there that would pay attention to the detail and do work of some value. But I've not encountered those people. I've got basically deceptive frauds. So here's exception as a word, as a name, and as a type. It does not have a framework that we use to be able to navigate among itself. So this focus as itself is not related and linked. In this case, I would want to put the link between the type and the name and establish that the path is not just another word, but it's another aspect of the same word. And then we'll do the same thing for the exception as a word, and we'll put it so the exception as a name is established in relation to itself as two aspects plus the name. We want to do four aspects, and then it becomes an objectivation of the word as a name for an effort or a finding. In this case, the finding becomes an exception, wherein if a person recognizes the exception, then they have the capacity or the potential capacity to fix it. If they can't give name to what they're doing or what they see, you never, without giving name to what a thing is, you'll never overcome it. You have to be able to acknowledge and name the focus, or otherwise it's just ignored and move on. So in this case, we mark recognition of a beginning and an end with respect to the first page, which is distinct from the others, and then we go to the next. I'm going to continue looking till I find a person that either has, and it's not education that's the arbiter. I've found some people that are educated and they really have a harder time confronting that they may not know, or what they may know is not adequate for what is needed. So the need is what's key, and if you can't address and help with the need, you shouldn't come and take people's time and money. But since people are just concerned with what they need, you'll find people seeking work as opposed to seeking to help. A person who's seeking to help is never going to find a lack. There's a lot of need for help. There's a lot of businesses and people who need help. So when you see a person seeking work, you've got a person that is not truly aligned with the base of recognizing that if they had the capacity to help, all they have to do is serve the need that meets their criteria of what they're looking for. The fact that they're looking indicates that they've not addressed that issue. They're still stuck on the I. Their I, their need, their concern. The moment they switch and start looking for what the market needs, there's never a question. The market has needs and is willing to pay. But if a person is not willing to sacrifice their ego, they'll be forever searching. If you seek to help, you'll never look for work. There's plenty of work, plenty of need, plenty of opportunity, but there's very few people who are able to overcome their ego, at least at the level that I'm operating on. Most of the people are opportunists, actually. So here we go. This is leading to a little too much, but here's exception. We found the exception. We're going to name the exception, and then we should have a type. Here's the type. It's not demarked. It doesn't have a table. So there should be a table, and that table would be a list of the different exceptions that we address. And in this case, the exception is a failure to orient. So we'll put number, name, value, and we're seeking to establish tuples, and the tuples will group together number, name, and value with a general base, a specific base, and a unique base. Thank you.